Hello everyone, welcome to another speedrun episode against Paul P. Basketball, rated 1629. Let's see how Paul P. handles the Scandinavian. So he doesn't decline it, shucks, because we like that. He plays a regular Scandinavian where he attacks the queen. Um, let's go to D8. I think I've been forgetting to do that. And he just develops a knight. Fine. We'll develop our king's knight towards the center. He develops a piece. Fine. Let's develop our bishop. We want to play e6 without hemming in our bishop. And he plays the most standard principled setup, which we play also from white. And now we'll play e6, opening our bishop. We want to castle quickly if we can. You don't castle too quickly in the Scandinavian because you move your queen a lot and then you move your queen to bishop, so it's kind of slow actually compared to white's castling, but move by move it happens to work, so that's why Scandinavian is a thing. Queen d8's a bit weird compared to our queen a5 lines. Like what if our queen was on a5 right here instead? It's just interesting to think about. Like he has bishop d2 move, which does nothing in this line. So he puts it here, pins the knight, which makes sense. Now you could defend with the knight, but I really want a castle. So I'm going to prioritize the bishop. If he takes, I'll just take with the bishop. Okay, I would rather take back with a knight if possible, but I'm going to prioritize castling over which piece I'm recapturing with, as that shouldn't determine the game, obviously. But getting my king to safety quickly before he uses this diagonal or pushes d5 is important to me. So d5 we always have to watch out for. If we take that pawn, like let's say he takes just to get rid of my knight, and then d5. Now my knight's not supporting that square. So it's interesting. Because I'll get a pawn and he'll get a pawn, you know? He opens up my king a little bit. I wonder how that works with the engine. Like, I wonder what the engine thinks. So he lifts his queen. He's clearly trying to castle long, which will lead to a fighting game. We could castle. We could also start with c6, which prevents d5, sets up b5, b4, since he's going to castle that way. If we castle, do we allow him to play d5? Takes, d5. Nah. Castling is good. And now c6. Okay, he doesn't castle. He starts, I guess, pawn storming us. But this is not convincing. Especially when you're not castled. Especially when you're not castled. So we have options. c6, c5. I'm looking at knight in the center, though. It hits his bishop, hits his knight, hits his queen, unlocks this alignment, the bishop and queen battery. Lots of different things. You don't have to do it. Trades obviously won't hurt black's position. They'll just make white's attack meaningless. They'll make his h4 pawn move a waste of a turn. But I'm going to start with c6. He could take and ruin my idea, but he would have to give up the bishop for that, so I don't mind. Okay, he plays a3 what? This? Or maybe he doesn't want this coming with tempo, like he wants to be able to take? Super weird. I mean, I'm not going to play b5 until and unless he long castles, right? I'm just going to leave it in my pocket. So you could just make the obvious development move. Or you could go for trades. I mean, it's up to you. I'm going to do the obvious developing move. So now my rooks kind of see each other, even though the queen's there. All the heavies are there. The minor pieces are gone. And we're castled before white. Why? Because he made this little pawn move and this pawn move, which kind of give us more turns. So he does castle long. So now I'm much more inclined to go b5. And I think I should just send that up the board. There's this move. I never even want to look at c5 in this type of position. I want to just go pawn storm for free. He goes back, but this little hook that where he can take, I hardly see how that's good for white. That just opens up the A file, and he still has to spend the whole turn going king b1 at some point, I feel like. I don't know about this. Now, if we do go here, and he takes, I would love to take back with my a pawn and open up my rook and hit the knight. So that's a huge argument for a5, which I think I'm going to play. So going for the trades, I mean, it's a move, but like it doesn't, it's neutral. Doesn't really do much. But a5 is part of our plan of attacking his king. Now we might want to go here and remove a defender of the king, right? Because then at least that trade has some purpose behind it, some meaning. If you ever, let's say, you know, as soon as he played h4, for whatever reason you're afraid of being attacked, or the attack is actually scary, then trades have a meaning. Removing minor pieces will reduce the effect of his attack probably. So that's meaning. But just doing it randomly, I mean, you could, and you probably won't hurt yourself, but he ignores our clear idea of b4, which looks to me extremely strong, and jumps in the center. So what's the threat? He's hitting a pawn. That's crazy. That's a crazy move. I would love to just send this. He gets a pawn, we get a piece. He gets a queen, we get a queen check, and then another piece. So it does kind of work. I mean, it's not forced, but if I go here, he can move his knight. I don't know. Let's just say to a4. And of course, you're going to take the a3 pawn at some point. But can you take it first? He takes here. You take another pawn with check. Yeah, it's probably not like good in that scenario. You could just start with queen b6, protect the pawn, and bring your queen over to the where you're attacking. If you cared about the knight, you could take it. You could trade queens and forget about any type of attack. But why would you do that when you have such a promising future with b4? Which looks like it just wins the game, kind of. I'm going to throw it in. If he goes knight a4, whatever. I'll just, I don't know, queen c7, right? I guess knight a4 does prevent queen b6, which I would rather go to, but that doesn't really matter. He goes down this line, taking my pawn, hitting my queen. I intermezzo, in between move. Oh, what did he just do? Oh, he took my bishop. So lame. He took my bishop with check, so that when I take, he just takes the pawn. But wait, didn't I take a piece out of that? He gets a pawn, I get a knight. Then we trade. Yeah, I got a knight and he got 2 pawns. Still though, even though I'm up a piece and totally winning in my next move, which I want you guys to find, like I wanted to play b4. That would have been so cool to rip open the dark squares. Now and or even take with a5 and open my rook. Now I can't do any of that, but I have a killer blow. What do you guys think it is? Exactly. Exactly. This guy knows. Paul P knows. Basically, just take your f rook, put it to c8. You're x-raying the queen and the pawn with the bishop behind it. So once you hit the queen, if he moves the queen, this is just devastating because he would have to move his king over, and then you have the windmill tactic where you get to scoop up everything on the second or something like that. Also, if he goes here and he tries to block with the bishop, you can just attack it a second time. Even if he tries to get out of it, it should never really work, so he's toast no matter what. Let's check the analysis board though. Oh, this, what the heck? Scandinavian variation, I mean Scandinavian defense, Valencian variation. I've never heard or seen that. Valencian, Valencian variation. Why does that word Valencia sound so familiar? Valencia. Anyway, we played the Scandinavian force move. Queen d8, which obviously is not ambitious. I mean, the whole point of queen d8 is that when you put it on d6 or a5, it's vulnerable. You eventually get hit with bishops, potential pawns. On d6, you get hit with knight b5s and God knows what else in the future. So queen d8 is safe, and black saying, okay, normally you'll have a knight and I'll get a knight. But in this, like 1-for-1. But in this version, you get 2 developing moves and then I'll get 1. So I give you a tiny lead in development, but because nothing has been committed, past my 7th, I'm safe and nothing is vulnerable. It's a little flawed logic to me, but what are you going to do? I'm not the authority of logic, so. Anyway, development and center. Development and center. And you see, like, the engine says white's plus 0.8, but it's a very fading, fleeting 0.8 that you would have to play 35 perfect top engine moves to keep 0.8. So, like, that's not even realistic. You see, the second he makes the most natural move is plus 0.3. So what was the best move? Knight e5 early? That's so weird. Okay, you see, like, weird, like, who's gonna play knight e5? And then you'd have to know the reason behind that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just dumb. This guy makes a much more normal move, and it becomes equal again. That's kind of crazy. That's why the Scandinavian's so annoying. We gave him 2 free knight development moves. He plays good, really good moves, and it's equal. And it's like, what the heck? However, there's lots of ways black can go wrong with d5 ideas, so I would much rather be white. I don't care what the engine says. Because conversely, black has to play top engine moves to maintain that evaluation, right? So it goes both ways. So center and development. And his best move, okay, it's castling 95. They're all the same, equal. But tied with that is d5. He can play it this early. So I was always curious about what happens. What's the correct response to d5 when he does it at different points? So here the best move is bishop b4. Developing, threatening to destroy his structure forever, and pinning the knight so d5 is pressured more. So if I go here, this is annoying, but let's say he does this and says, I don't care. You can intermezzo this. We intermezzo it and ruin his structure. And now it's our turn. So he took a pawn. So we would want to trade queens since we're going to have to rip open our king a little bit. Like, take this, ruin his castling rights, take this, and now if he wants, he can ruin our structure or rook e1. So let's say rook e1, like I would play. I mean, engine says knight c6 is a little better than castling. I'm kind of like, oh, probably, I see, he wants to long castle and get in that check. If you castle short, why is it so fine though? Like, knight bd7, king e2 to get out of any weird stuff, and then knight d5 going for the weaknesses. So we're temporarily down a pawn, but these weaknesses should guarantee us our pawn back at some point, and it's just an equal game. Okay. Super equal. Kind of lame. Okay, so where were we? Here, he did not play d5, he developed. Development, king safety. Again, I was curious what happens if he plays here. And now the best move is obviously not to move your bishop again. So that now it changes. So now we can just take the pawn, which is interesting. But let's throw this in first. He takes our knight. And then he plays d5. We again ruin his pawn structure. And now we're kind of in the same looking position as we just checked out. Only now we have an extra option of queen f6, which we didn't have before because this was included and we queen traded. His rook wasn't open yet. A couple differences, but very similar-ish position where I guess the normal move again is just castle. And on d takes, you could take, but you don't ruin his castling. You still could. Let's take it. Rook takes. Right, this pawn's hanging at some point. But bishop takes c6, bishop takes, f takes, castles, knight c6. What does this look like? So the pawns are even. We have this weak isolated one. It might get scooped, but he's got weak isolated junk too. That's why it's just even. Okay. Huh. So d5, if you just do it randomly and it's not timed right, I mean, it looks a little scary, but I guess it doesn't offer white much. He has to wait for me to misstep to make it win the game. Okay, so we just castle in development, still even game. He does this move which, okay, it doesn't collapse his position, but it's hardly threatening. And now center, development, and very importantly b5 ideas. It's a fulcrum point to push b5 on long castles. I think that move is terrible. And now development and center. And I'm not going to push b5 just to do a one move threat if he castles the other way, because that doesn't make any sense, because I just weakened my structure, which he tried to attack in the game. But I don't care about that if it's in a long castle game, right? Take my pawn and give me rook files. But if he's not castling long, I don't want to just hang stuff and not get to his king because it's not there. That makes no sense. So he castles long, and immediately the eval goes from even game to minus 1.3, as if I'm up a pawn. And it may look like a natural move, but you have to understand that you don't want this inclusion, a3. Like, you would rather have your pawn here on a2. Because when I play b5, b4, you don't want there to be a hook. Because if you want to save the knight, I get to rip open your king. But if the pawn was on a2, I don't have that option, of course. So that's why it's bad for him. And is this the best move? Of course it's the best move. Why even look? b5, you have to, I mean, opposite side, castling, pawn storms. Unless your pieces have access, then don't waste time with your pawns, right? Don't do it just because you're checking a box. We're only pawn storming to sacrifice them. We want to kamikaze these pawns, right? They want to blow up so we can get access. He goes back, and best move b4. We went a5, which is ever so slightly worse, but makes a ton of sense. I obviously you can go b4 and try to rip it open. And I know this is good for you, right? This has to be good for you. Your bishop's here, your queen's coming here. It's basically game over, even though it says minus 1.2, which is just a pawn. Practically speaking, I'm gonna win this position, I don't know, 9 times out of 10, I believe, if it gets to this point. So you could play this, but how much nicer would this position be if this bishop was a pawn and your rook was open? No, well, that would just be game over immediately because the knight would move and the bishop would hang. So it would be a much more preferable situation. However, you have to spend a turn, so it's slightly less energetic. In opposite side castling, you're supposed to be maximally energetic. However, the engine sometimes will do too energetic things that I'm not a fan of. Like sometimes when it runs the H pawn up the board, it just, instead of going G4, H5, I know my squares are wrong, but I'm thinking of a different position. Like they don't want to prepare. They just want you to sack everything all the time. And it's like, okay, an engine will calculate perfectly, but some of it's a little speculative for humans. Here, A5's an amazing move, so don't think about that. He goes here, and now the best move by far for a huge minus 1.5 advantage is the tactical b4. Next best, in case you're curious, is knight takes e5. I saw that move. You can obviously go here and like hop your knight in the center and have an aesthetically pleasing, super solid position. But I figured like, why? And how bad is queen b6? Oh, that hangs the bishop, right? Because knight takes bishop. Oh, you can't go queen b6. You would have to go queen c7, right? Because it's a blunder. Yeah, it's a blunder. Because he'll take your knight and then your bishop. Queen c7. Okay, it's about as good as knight takes knight. So basically, you're just protecting the pawn that he's attacking and re-threatening b4. So I think I mentioned queen b6 in the game, but that's a blunder. I didn't play it either way. I went for the b4, the strongest move. And what's his best move? Knight b1. Just protecting the king in a full safe, with full safety, and that move makes sense because it covers this square. And you can't harass it, obviously, because you can't reach it. just as good basically as knight e2. Just getting it out of the way. Although knight e2, when I take, what does he do? Yeah, now it goes to -2. He's toast. So once it gets here, yeah, okay, I played a5, but he's toast still, right? The game's over, -1.7. No matter how he responds, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. He goes for the pawn, which is -2.3. I didn't even consider this intermezzo like variation because it didn't like my brain didn't even think it was an option, and that's because it's not. So we take free stuff for free, and he should take back the pawn with the queen and force us to go queen e8, which is a dumb square for our queen, but we have to protect the bishop because if we go somewhere else, we hang it, right? Even then, it's -2.5, but he blunders, -5, free stuff. He takes the pawn, -5. We're only up 1 point of material, technically. Knight for 2 pawns, but -5, a rook better. And it's because of his king. It has nothing to do with material. Who cares about that knight? It's the king. The fact that we were touching this, and now, remember I said we wanted to kamikaze the pawns to get him off the board? Well, there we go. He took them. He took 2 of our pawns. Thank you. And now we have open rook files, and there's nothing he can do. And where's his attack on me? Nowhere. He can't even play this move without it hanging. So as soon as we go rook fc8, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. Wait, what? That the engine says rook fc8 is -5, but rook ac8 is -5.1. I would have bet money that rook fc8 and rook ab8 was better than rook ac8 and rook fd8. I don't even know if they want to put the rook to d8 or just leave it there, but I don't know. Either way, this is like not the best engine, right? It's just this web browser's junk. Anyway, I would have gone here for sure. He would have to move his queen, and then you take this and win the queen, right? If he tries to do this, knight b6, like I said, I mean, if he tries this as a defender, he just hangs the game. No other way to defend it, though. So you kind of have to try it if you don't want to lose your piece. And I mean, we're going to take anyway, and I don't know. The game is over. Super smooth win. I think this is our first game with queen d8. Kind of awkward. So far, just based on this one, the feeling, like, I liked my queen on a5 a little better. A little awkward, but whatever. But it worked out and gave us no problems, so good luck in your chess. Submit your rapid games in my Discord. Goodbye.